The Nats signed Strasburg to a long-term contract extension worth $175 million. Risky or not, Bryce Harper is suspended for 1 game by Major League Baseball. Is this fair or foul? Are the Chicago Cubs the Golden State Warriors of the MLB? Thanks for joining us, everyone, as we attempt to answer those questions on Around the Diamond. I'm Marvin Jackson, and my special guests are Alena Neves, who covers everything sports, and Nats beat writer with MajorLeagueBaseball.com, Jamal Collier. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have a special piece on Joe Ross coming up later, and we will grade Dusty Baker on his performance so far as the Nats skipper. But let's start at the top with the Strasburg contract extension. Jamal?
Yeah, definitely a surprise. Everybody kind of saw it coming, that Strasburg all of a sudden, while he was pitching on the mound, had signed a 7-year, or had agreed to a 7-year, $175 million extension. He's going to hit free agency. It's definitely a risky deal, because here's a guy who had Tommy John surgery, who's only thrown 200 innings once in his career, but over the last year and a half, has been one of the best pitchers in the league. So the Nationals got him. When you look at some of the money that guys were getting this past offseason, Greinke got $30 million, David Price got $30 million. You know, those guys were at least $200 million total value. The Nationals got a little bit of a steal if this guy ends up being one of the best pitchers in the league.
All right, and Alena?
Well, of course, people who have had that Tommy John, surgery, they supposedly don't have, basically the word is that you never have to worry about it again. So, that may take some of the risk out of it. We'll see. But, I mean, he seems to be okay, though. So it's kind of, they just kind of replaced a ligament, in his elbow with a tendon. So he should be, I think he should be okay. I mean, he is such an incredible talent, and I think he was definitely worth it. And I think that had they left it on the table, he might have gotten scooped up by someone else. So I think it was the right move at the right time. And, and it's unfortunate. He was ready to play in the playoffs last year, and you see what happened. So,
All right.
And I'll say the Nationals have also done a good job of taking care of him since that first injury.
They have.
Remember, there was the infamous when they shut him down back in 2012, and they really kind of handled him carefully, and especially to try to keep his talent not only for these years here, but to go years down the road. And I think that's why they were comfortable signing him for this kind of long-term deal.
And do you think that might help when it comes to Harper being signed? I think some people are saying that because he's signed, Harper may sign and stay here in a couple years.
Yeah. I would hesitate against making that connection.
Okay.
I tell you, it certainly doesn't hurt, because what Harper does see is that the organization is committed to signing these big players and to having good teams on the field. And we know Harper, just like all players, wants to win. Yep. So having another pitcher like Strasburg and Scherzer at the top of your rotation, that's going to give the Nationals a chance to win. Now, just because Strasburg signed early doesn't necessarily mean that Harper is going to be the same way 3 years, especially when we're talking about what could be the biggest contract in baseball history.
I mean, he could make, $500 million. I don't know. I mean, the sky is the limit with this guy. He's just so incredibly talented. But the only problem is, will he fit in this market if he continues to, act the way he acts? That's my only issue, so far with him. Is he more of a, Yankee or something? I don't know. Not to say that all the bad guys go to New York.
Let's say controversial.
There we go. Yeah.
Controversial. Right. Exactly. But hey, he's an incredible talent. Look, they're walking him.
Well, Dusty says, he likes the guy. And he said, will he have to spank him? Maybe, every once in a while.
It was incredible.
But he said, it was a great quote.
Yes.
You heard that.
Yes.
And he also says that he wants him to be 23. He wants him to be Bryce Harper, because he can't really see him as a leader yet anyway. So you might want to comment on that. I know you've talked to them about that a lot.
I have. And it's one thing that coming here, and it's my first year on the Nationals beat and getting to be around this team, his teammates love him. And there is nobody in the locker room that feels that he is out of line or wouldn't go all the way and run through walls for them. And I think that's really important. That sometimes, yes, he is an emotional player. He is only 23 years old. I think that's kind of sometimes easy to forget when you talk about all that he's accomplished so far. But the people around the team really like him, and that fire and that emotion that he plays with helps fuel him to play so well. And you see when he gets booed on the road, that's when he hits home runs.
I was going to ask you, you're out there on the road with them, and you see that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely loves it. And relishes that spotlight and that kind of attention. I absolutely have no problem with some of the things the guy does on the field because he is passionate. He does care about the game, and he knows that there's a chance to show it. And that's what separates maybe baseball from some of the other sports in football and basketball, that we see players celebrating and able to show their emotion in those sports. And I think that's all Bryce wants to do is say, hey, if I have a legitimate, now if it's something rehearsed and it comes off, kind of showing up with the other team, that's a different story. But if it's legit a big enough moment, then I think Bryce wants to be able to express himself and show without people, thinking that he is trying to show somebody up.
Right. I just think that you have to be careful because the umpires have their own fraternity.
And that is true.
And when you start the ball rolling, when you're going, when you're disobeying the umpires and you're going, you're running out there and you're screaming and hollering and cursing them out, and
should he have been suspended?
You got to deal with him. You have to deal with him because I understand his passion, but I can't go on my job and yell and say, an inappropriate word, to, what I mean? On my job, I can't say, the word that he used, the curse word that he used. So I think that the umpires, if that behavior continues, they start gunning for you too. So you gotta be careful. You gotta contain yourself. I'm not saying that he doesn't have to be passionate. Yes, be passionate, be exciting, be all the things that make you Bryce Harper. But you don't have to do it in a way where you're all of a sudden, showing up the umpire and being in his face and pointing your finger. And now that to me is going to be a breeding ground for really, really bad, negative. It's just going to be an unnecessary strife with the umpires that he really doesn't need. He doesn't need to take that on.
Okay. Well, we're gonna hold that, and we're gonna talk a little more about that. But let's go to break right now, and when we return, we'll return with more Around the Diamond with special guests Alena, Neves, and Jamal Collier. We'll be right back.